A lot of people pay attention to the latest diet fads and they follow this diet or that diet. And what they perhaps don't pay attention to is the fact that so many of us have something called the SAD diet, the standard American diet, which is not healthy for anyone. Not only is it not good for you on a deeper level, it's not good for your overall well-being and can affect your microbiome and your mitochondria. And so today I am delighted to be talking with Dr. Robert Floyd, who is a colleague who specializes in this very area. Robert, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I love sharing the message of health as well.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I love about what you do is so many people are not talking about how bad the standard American diet is. We've gotten to a point where we just gloss over it. And so I'd love if you can give us a framework for why that should not be our standard anymore.
That's actually that's funny you say that because I use that tagline as the standard American diet shouldn't be the standard for anybody. It's full of toxins. It's poisonous. Literally, the food that passes off to us in America as food, it's literally toxic to our bodies. Our bodies don't know how to break it down. It's calorie dense, nutrient deficient. It's very nutrient deficient. And it's really, again, it's mind boggling what people eat. And you and I, like we talked about a little minute ago, you and I are both pretty much on the same page of health is the first wealth. And it starts with what you eat, your gut health, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is how bad ultra processed food is for us. And Americans today get about 73%, somewhere in that ballpark, of their food calories from ultra processed food. And ultra processed food, I'm actually talking about the standard American diet. I just finished an ebook I'm going to have on my website called The Hidden Health Assassins in the Standard American Diet, Uncovered for Your Protection. And it's basically, it talks about gluten, dairy, artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, added sugars, and seed oils. And all of those together literally like gum up our bodies and don't help us run optimally. And it's really sad. And if you find ultra processed food, it's got all of those in it. And when the majority of people are eating ultra processed foods, it's no wonder that 93.2% of all American adults are sick.
And I think part of the challenge too is that this has been a long, slow slide into the current state of affairs. Because a couple of generations ago, we certainly didn't eat this way. But as food production and food manufacturing began to take a deeper and deeper hold on the American kitchen, and by extension, family, we began to eat more processed foods, and it's being sold as convenient. And they do all kinds of marketing to go, oh, a full day's vitamin C and so many vitamins and minerals or whatever. They try to convince us that it's in there. And we're forgetting that the vitamins and minerals they put in many of these foods are actually chemical analogs. They're not the naturally occurring ones either.
Correct. Absolutely. 100%. And sometimes your body doesn't know how to assimilate those into a health and wellness state. One of the things that you talked about, you said just a second ago, was convenience. The marketing gurus in all of these large corporations have literally convinced us that we don't have time to cook. My wife and I cook every night. We love to cook. And it's very important. I always say to people, what do you mean you don't know how to cook? How do you eat good food if you don't know how to cook? So
no, and that I think it's one of the saddest things they ever did was taking home ec out of the school curriculum, because so many people, it used to be you learned from relatives, and I certainly did. But then I also had home ec in school. By the time my kids got to school, home ec was the whack and crack bread wrapped around a hot dog, and that was considered cooking, which was hard.
I know the whack and crack, like the crescent rolls and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Just again, just toxic food for us. And
I know.
It's
So,
really, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, I was just going to say, so I know like you are all about the mitochondria and how mitochondrial dysfunction can really impact our body. And I was wondering if you could take a minute and share with everybody what exactly is our mitochondria and why it's so important.
Absolutely. I've just been fascinated with the mitochondria as of late because they make us live. And without mitochondria, what they are is they're the little energy, they're the nuclear reactors in each one of our cells. And if you go back to eighth grade biology, like you said, I don't even know if they teach biology anymore. But mitochondria are how we get energy. We get
Mm,
ATP. And ATP is the energy currency of mammalian cells.
mm,
So what happens is mitochondria are, if you have one cell, if you again think back to eighth grade biology, you had the nucleus and then you had some other little organelles and then you had a mitochondria, and the breakdown products of food go into the mitochondria and they go through a whole bunch of chemical reactions, and out the other end comes ATP.
mm.
And what's really a couple of really fascinating facts about that, we make enough ATP. It's a tiny molecule. We make our body weight every day in ATP.
Wow.
Think about that. I make 155 pounds of ATP every day. And it, like I said, it's a molecule. It's a adenosine, which is a ribonucleate. It's in the DNA. I have
Right.
ATCG, and
Right.
that's adenosine. And then when there's three phosphates on it, by cleaving one phosphate off, that's how you get energy. It releases energy.
Okay.
And again, to think about, it's so microscopic, but we make your body weight in ATP every day. It's fascinating. I really truly think the human body is absolutely fantastic and genius. It's one of the most ingenious things ever. And so going back to the picture of the cell, we all think, oh, we have the nucleus and then there's one mitochondria. That's not true at all. We have quadrillions of mitochondria. That's thousands of billions of mitochondria. It's numbers that we can't even comprehend, just like the whole ATP number. We can't even comprehend it. And depending on the metabolic activity of a cell, let's say your heart cells versus your skin cells or your fingernail cells or something like that,
Mhm.
right? So the more metabolically active the tissue is, the cells, they have more mitochondria. There could be 10,000 mitochondria in one heart cell.
Mm.
Okay. Or in the liver cell because it's very metabolically active, in the kidneys. And so the skin and the fingernails, they don't have as many mitochondria because they don't need to generate as much energy. Think about, again, the genius of our body. We don't have to think to make our heart beat. It just
Yeah.
beats. It just goes on and on. And that takes a lot of energy. And so when you don't feed your mitochondria well, you end up with chronic diseases such as heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease. There are certain types of specific primary mitochondrial diseases. And people who have those don't usually live beyond 7, 8, 9, or 10 years old because it's so devastating.
Wow.
We're blessed that we have functioning and well functioning mitochondria until we start eating the standard American diet. And the reason,
Right. So those poor quality foods don't provide the resources that our body needs to feed the mitochondria so that they can then provide energy for the body. And it becomes like this vicious, it sounds like a downward spiral when we eat poor quality food.
absolutely, 100%. A lot of the poor quality food is high in bad fats and is high in sugar. And it's basically when you feed the mitochondria these bad fats and these bad sugars, it gums it up. It's almost like putting sugar in the gas tank of your car. I like to equate the mitochondria as the engine in your car. It's what makes your car move. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you need gasoline to make your engine work, just like we need high quality food to make our mitochondria work. And the funny thing is that, again, our body's so resilient that you can do this to your body for years. You can eat the standard American diet for years and years. And your body gets back to homeostasis because, again, it's genius, but it can only take it for so long. Then your body just snaps and says, okay, guess what? Here's autoimmune disease. Here's heart disease. Here's brain fog. Here's Alzheimer's. Here's Parkinson's. And what happens is when you don't have really well functioning, highly functioning mitochondria, you get a lot of inflammation running around through your whole body. It's my humble belief that chronic low grade inflammation is what leads to chronic disease over time.
And I think one of the other challenges that comes from that, like you said, chronic illness is disease state of decades. It takes a very long time. It also is not something that gets fixed overnight, which is why
Absolutely.
we're too late to change the diet. Like I am a huge proponent of start reading labels now, learn what's in your food, but it is never too late. And you don't want to wait until you get to that point because you want to support your body as much as you can.
100%. And I truly believe, I will concur with what you said. Start today. I just posted on Instagram post about, I started changing some things in my life, and I started doing a 5:45 in the morning yoga program because I've been saying my whole life, oh, I'll start yoga when I'm older. It just dawned on me, hey, guess what? I'm older. But my Instagram reel this morning talked about, hey, if you want to change your destination, you have to change your practices. And I actually wrote in it, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now, today. If you
Yeah.
want to change something, if you don't want to be in the same spot you're in right now in
Mhm.
5 years, change what you're doing now. And
Yeah.
it will take many years to get to where you want to. But if you continue doing the same thing you're doing, you're not going to get healthy. And you can always try to think you're going to get healthy, but it's not going to help.
Yeah. And so I love that you mentioned things like yoga because so many people, when it comes to what's going on with our body state, focus on food, which is wonderful. And I'm a huge proponent of that. But we are holistic beings. There's a lot more to us than just what we eat. And I know you and I interacted a little bit. You were talking about there are some 5 top biohacks that you think are so important for people to improve their mitochondrial health. Can you share what those are?
Yeah, one of them is time optimized eating. It's intermittent fasting. I want to change the name of intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding, because fasting and feeding, those terms I don't really like. Fasting
Right.
feels like you're starving yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And feeding sounds like you're an animal at the trough. So I came up with a term called time optimized eating. It's basically the intermittent fasting of 16 and 8. Most everybody can do it and should do it. I'm sure you're aware of Dr. David Perlmutter.
Yes.
He says that everybody should fast at least 12 hours every day, period. I will on a caveat on that. Like if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, you should not be fasting. If you have a history of eating disorder, you probably shouldn't be fasting. If you're cachexic, meaning that you have a very low BMI, you have a metabolic problem that's going on, you shouldn't be fasting. But everyone else in the world should be
Mhm.
fasting. And what I do is I do 16 and 8. So I fast for 16 hours every day. And then I eat all of my calories in that 8-hour window. Literally, I will eat 1,500, 2,000 calories in that 8-hour window. And so that's just one of the best ones. And because what's cool about fasting, if time optimized eating, is that it increases a term called autophagy, which is your body's own response of getting rid of the old dying cells. And it basically speeds them up and recycles them. And the same thing goes for mitophagy. When you are doing time optimized eating, your body will recycle the kind of dying mitochondria, kill them, recycle the good parts in them, and make good new ones. So that is one of the best tricks that you can do for increasing your mitochondria numbers and their efficiency.
And I love that you share that fasting is not for everybody. I get very frustrated. There are so many dietary platforms out there that are like, this is for everybody. And the answer is no, there is no one size fits all. And I also just want to share for anybody who's listening that if you are not currently engaged in, what did you call it? Optimized time eating?
Time optimized eating.
Time optimized eating, it's okay to also gently move your way into it because it does take some getting used to if you're not used to doing that. Because unfortunately, one of the things the food producers have done is turned us into a nation of snackers. And
Yeah.
so we graze all day long. We're used to always eating. And so it can be very hard all of a sudden to go, no, we're going to confine that to an optimal window.
Yeah.
So what, sorry, go ahead.
I find it funny too, because I'm a big fan of the paleo lifestyle. I don't say diet because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And it includes time optimized eating and eating whole foods, healthy foods, non-processed foods, grass-fed meats. And in the paleo, we do time optimized eating. And like you said, the marketing companies, the food companies said, oh, we need to eat 5 or 6 times a day. I can't believe like when people were like, oh, I eat 6 meals a day. I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that. It takes a lot of energy to digest food. So that's one of the coolest things I think about the benefits of time optimized eating. It's free. It saves you money.
Yeah.
It also gives you an hour or two extra a day because you're not eating breakfast and lunch. So then you have a couple extra, you don't have to prepare your food, eat it, and clean afterward. It's just, oh, I get an extra hour in the morning. It's great.
Do something, sure. So what are some other biohacks that we could include to support our mitochondria?
Another one is high intensity interval training. That's really great for mitochondrial health. That helps you make more mitochondria because when your body is in an energy deficit, meaning you're working out harder than what your body can sustain, it says, again, it's genius. It says, hey, we need more mitochondria. So high intensity interval training is a wonderful hack for that. Another really good hack for mitochondrial health is you got to get sleep. It's important to sleep. And then also what you eat, again, like I've talked about, is what you eat is very important. The key things to eat for mitochondrial health is avoiding high fructose corn syrup and added sugars, because like I said, that gums up your mitochondria. And what's really important is high quality fat, avocado fats, fat from olives, like real olives from Italy, or not these canned black olives.
And I think that's one of the challenges that we run into too. So many times food producers have taken what used to be a food that provided a whole lot more nourishment and commercialized it in a way to make it easier for them. My favorite example of that is kraut. You should be buying your sauerkraut, which is a fermented food, which is so good for your gut and feeds your body, supports your microbiome. You should be buying that in the refrigerated section, not in a can on a shelf, because what's in a can on a shelf is heat processed and no longer has enzymes or any live activity to it.
Or even better, make your own. I make my own,
Yes.
and it's so easy. You literally just cut up cabbage. You can cut up any vegetables. Mostly it's cabbage for sauerkraut. You put in the right amount of salt, mash it all up and let it sit. I like to let it sit for 3 or 4 weeks, and because I like it a little bit tanger, but it is so good for your guts, so good for your microbiome. And that's really important. That's a whole nother call that we could talk about. And then another thing to do, another biohack for your mitochondria, is you can take supplements for the mitochondria. Acetyl L-carnitine, you can take up to 2 grams. What that does is that helps transport fatty acids into the matrix of your mitochondria to give you more energy. It basically helps get the gas from the gas tank into the engine.
Okay.
So that it helps that out. And then when you eat fats, like I said, avocado fat, MCT, coconut oil, coconut fats, healthy fats, and olive oil, it's really cool because your body can burn in ketosis. It can burn fats for energy. And so that's a really great trick. And that's part of also the time optimized eating. It gets you into a kind of a very shallow state of ketosis. It's very important that your body can switch from burning carbohydrates to going into ketosis to burning ketones. Because sometimes when you don't have the carbohydrates, which unfortunately it seems like we all have them way too much, your body needs to be able to say, hey, I'm going to start burning fats. It's really good for your brain.
Think so, sure.
Absolutely. Another thing is CoQ10. That is a cofactor in some of the electrical conversions and the complexes in the mitochondria. And so if you take CoQ10, it helps you have more, helps you make ATP better. And then another thing is you can take antioxidants, because again, when mitochondria make ATP, they're just like the automobile. Yes, they move it forward, but there's also an exhaust, right? So the exhaust from mitochondria making ATP is reactive oxygen species. And that's what antioxidants combat. Our bodies make lots and lots of antioxidants. But if there's an imbalance of antioxidants, it makes your mitochondria not run as well as well.
And antioxidants are so important also just because they help our body ward off free radical damage from all the exposures that we have in our modern lives. So the more we can do to support our system, the better it is long term. Because again, all of this takes place over decades. It's not like you eat a Twinkie and wake up with diabetes the very next day.
No, absolutely not. 100%. But speaking of getting rid of free radicals, you can take glutathione. That's one of the master antioxidants. Our bodies make it, but you have to take the liposomal form of glutathione. And I use it from Designs for Health underneath the tongue. And so it goes right into your blood. You can also take alpha lipoic acid, which also helps. It gets rid of the free radicals. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that milk thistle is actually a really great mitochondrial protectant. It really helps clean up. It turns on the liver, which then helps detox the body. And that's another, actually, there's a lot of biohacks, but detoxing is really good for the mitochondria as well. But you have to do it correctly.
Sure. This has all been so interesting. You've shared some really great information with us, and hopefully everybody who's listening has a renewed or a new appreciation for their mitochondria and how important it is for their ability to move well and be well in the world. And I want to thank you so much for sharing all this information with us. And I wanted to ask, if people wanted to connect with you, where would be the best place for them to find you and learn more about how to protect their mitochondria and make sure that they're improving their mitochondrial health?
Yeah, thank you. The empowermentmd.com is my website. I've also got Empowerment MD on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the easiest places to find me and follow. And I post a lot of great things about health biohacking tips and tricks too, because I just want to spread the message that health is wealth. And it's the number one wealth that we all have, because if you're sick, there's a great saying, a healthy man has all the wishes in the world and a sick man has but one, right? And this has been my driving force, because as a doctor, I've seen so many sick people that don't deserve it. And it tears me up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll share your bio down below, but you have so many credentials and so much training as a family medicine practitioner, an internist, a hospitalist, like you, emergency medicine. You've really run the gamut of that. So you have seen people in every age stage and challenging situation in life, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm very blessed.
It's been wonderful to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. And folks, I will put some links down below for you so that you can connect with Dr. Robert Floyd, as well as some of the information that he shared. And I invite you to stay connected by clicking that subscribe button. And in all the things you do, make it a healthy day. Bye.
Thank you.